it's Lauren again. So if you were watching my last video, I showed you what to do before you put on your pump. On this video, I'm going to show you what to do afterwards. So for this video purposes, I use food coloring and water because I didn't want to play with my milk. So after you get yourself unhooked and you have taken off your breast shields, there's 3 different ways that I generally do. I use the 8-ounce or 10-ounce bottles, Spectra bottles, for the refrigerator. My husband thinks these are a lot easier. Our baby drinks like 4 ounces, so it's easier for us to just either put them in here and just pour it in the bottle, or I know some people just use like an actual pitcher, but I found this way to be a little bit easier so my milk doesn't spoil, because I don't use the milk after it's like been in there for like 48 hours. And then of course you want to use the older milk first. So this is one method that I use just for the refrigerator. The second one is if I know that my daughter is going to be going to a family member or going somewhere else. I guess if she were to go to childcare, I would just pre-fill these to 4-ounce bottles. So I'll show you guys also how to do that. And then the last one is the one I use when I go to like work, or if I'm like on the go somewhere and I end up having to like pump in the car or something. I'll just go ahead and take off my bottles and pour it into a storage bag. That way when I get home, I just have to stick it in the freezer or refrigerator, wherever I'm gonna end up putting it. Oh, I also use these if I have too much milk in the refrigerator. Of course, if I'm not going to end up needing that milk while she's gone somewhere. So the first method is just simply pouring it into the bottle. So for that, you would just take off your breast shields. Take off the top to the white bottle, or the Spectra bottle, the white top off the Spectra bottle. And you just pour it until it's full. Quite simple, but I know some of these steps seem super easy to me. It's my second time around, so I want to break it down and show it to you guys. And then I would also pour it here. I typically pump between 10 and 12 ounces every session, so that's why I always have like 2 bottles on hand, because I typically will use this full bottle and then a little bit of the other one. It's kind of hard for me to tell you guys how much to keep in the refrigerator. It's really going to just depend on how much your baby drinks. I try to keep a full day's worth in the refrigerator at all times in case I have to work or have to just run errands the next day and it's just going to be my husband at home by himself. So I just try to keep at least a day, maybe even a day and a half worth of milk in the refrigerator. So in my refrigerator, you'll typically see about 3 of these for my baby girl every day. So then the second method is going to be just filling it up, the little bottles up. For a family member, it just makes their life a lot easier because they don't have to sit there and measure out like, okay, what is 4 ounces? Or if you're like my dad, it's a little bit harder for you to see them to see those little numbers. So it makes it a world easier if you just go ahead and pre-fill them for them. And it makes it easier because when you stick it in the warmer, it's just, you know, once it comes out, everything is already exact for them. So it makes it that much easier for them. When you have people who help you with your baby, you want to make their lives as easy as possible. So for this video purposes, of course, you're going to look for the 4, which is right here for me. Alright, so I have 4, and then I have a little bit extra. So typically with this, you could either just pour it in one of your big extra bottles for the next time you end up using it, because I wouldn't recommend wasting a whole storage bag over it. But if you did have at least 3 or 4 ounces, then I probably would go ahead and put it in a storage bag to just stick it in the freezer. So this is storage system number 2. And then I have so many bottles. I don't know if you guys can see back over there, but I have so many bottles. I could literally pre-make a day's worth of milk in these little bottles too. That way, if you just want to go in and grab one at a time, you don't have to worry about pouring it into the bottle from this big old bottle. And then just to touch back on the pitcher system, with the pitcher system, you just pour all of the milk that you pump. You just continuously pour it in that pitcher, whether it's a day's worth, 2 days worth, whatever your preference is. But like I said, I don't like to combine Monday's milk and Tuesday's milk and Wednesday's milk all in one thing, and I'm always afraid that it's going to spoil, and I don't want baby's stomach to hurt. So I kind of veered away from that, but I will put 3 of these bottles in the refrigerator. That way this one can be, you know, I can keep this one separate, another one separate, and if I do have to waste one, it's not all of them at the same time for whatever may happen. And then the last method is the storage bag. So these are Medela bags, and in one of my previous videos I talked about other different bags that you can get, but the moral of the story is you just need a storage bag. On the storage bag, it has you tear this little piece off the top, but I typically fill out the name, the date, and the amount. Sometimes I even put I do put the time on mine, but I'm a little OCD, so that's not something you have to do. But if you can see that, it says name, date, and the amount. That helps whoever is watching the baby, or even for you, to know how many bags that you should pack if you don't choose to use the bottle system if they're going somewhere. These bags are a lot flatter, so it's a little bit easier to pack these in a diaper bag than it is to pack this in a diaper bag. But either one of them is fine. It's whatever your preference is. So I already have one pre-filled out. It has Landon's name on it, it has the date, and it has the time that I pumped it. And then in here I have 6 ounces. I usually make my bags either 5 or 6 ounces. Typically I make 6 ounces just because I pump so much milk. And then this is one that I just took out of the freezer because, like I talked previously in the videos, I lay it flat in the freezer just like this. Now the least fill it is, the easier it is to put it in the freezer. So if this opening right here is laying in the freezer, I lay the other one going in the opposite direction like this, and I just have them all stacked up. I also have to show you guys my freezer stash, but this is what it looks like. So those are my different methods. I think that I covered everything. Like I said, I don't like to waste bags, so I won't even worry about using it if it only has 2 ounces in it. But I know for some mothers who don't pump as much milk, that might be all that you store, which is perfectly fine. But my preference is to get the most out of the bag, and it holds up to 6 ounces in here too. All right, so that's it. I'll show you guys just how I actually pour it in here. So this bottle is already pre-filled to 4 ounces. I recommend before you pour it in the bag that you measure it out, so you know how much it is. Don't just say, oh, well, I'm just gonna pour all this in here and stop, because this number on here is not as accurate as using the bottle. So like I said, you would fill it out, name, date, and the amount. And then it has a little piece right here where you can just rip off going straight across. And then you open it. It's open. As you notice, the bottom part is still flat though, so what I do is I kind of help it on the outside. Of course, don't stick your hand in there because your hands aren't sterile. I just wouldn't do it. I'm mixing it with the milk. Once I have the little pouch, I take my 4 ounces and I pour it in the bag. All the drops. And then I squeeze out all the air and seal it. This is another, it sounds really minor, this is another very important part. I usually even go across this like 3 times to make sure it's still closed, because it's when it's like 3 o'clock in the morning and you're trying to store your milk, you tend to just take shortcuts and you'll wake up the next day and your milk is all in the freezer, poured all over the place, or either you pour it on yourself because you're so delirious. And then like, as you can see right here, you have a perfect flatness right here. Now this is 4 ounces, this is 6 ounces. So it's not as flat as the 4 ounces, but as you can see, you could store so many bags in the freezer if you lay it flat like this. And it's also so easy to just stick it in the diaper bag if it's just laying flat like this, or frozen flat like this. It takes up so much less space than the bottles. 4 ounces, 4 ounces, but this is a little bit easier if you're going to be taking it somewhere. All right, I'm gonna just show you guys my freezer stash, my deep freezer stash, and then it's gonna be it. I ended up needing 2 deep freezers, so that's what you guys are about to see. But only one of mine is full so far. And just for keeping track purposes, my baby is 3 months, a little over 3 months. There we go. That's how I store it. Keep it flat. These are some different baggies that I use too. These are the Medela baggies, as we just saw in the video. And then I also have these Lancino baggies too that I use. And that's it. That's how much I've stored so far. All right, well that's it guys. If you have any more questions, you can just leave it in the comments, or follow me on Rocking with the Geralds on Instagram. You can DM me any questions. And sorry it's been taking me so long to get to these videos. I have a lot on my plate right now, but I promise if you put like ASAP or need it as soon as possible, I'll get it to you as soon as possible. I'll put it as on the priority list.